Little girl interrupts her millionaire dad's lunch and reveals, "Don't eat your fiancé, put something in the food." Before we get into it, if this video found you at the right moment, let me know with your favorite emoji. The early morning. Sunlight filtered through the lace curtains of Lily Morgan's bedroom, casting delicate patterns across her collection of stuffed animals. At just 5 years old, Lily possessed a rare gift. She could sense things that others couldn't, a sensitivity that had only grown stronger since her mother's passing last year. "Miss Lily, breakfast is ready," called Mrs. Patterson, the kind-faced housekeeper who had been with the family for 15 years. Her voice carried warmth that had become Lily's comfort in a world suddenly too large and empty. Lily slid from her canopy bed, her small feet finding the plush carpet. "Coming, Mrs. Patterson," she called back, pausing to straighten the photo of her mother on her nightstand, a ritual she performed every morning. The Morgan mansion stretched impressively across 5 acres of manicured grounds. To outsiders, it represented the pinnacle of success, a testament to Maxwell Morgan's brilliance as CEO of Morgan Innovations. To Lily, it was simply home, though lately it had begun to feel different. Downstairs, her father sat at the massive dining table, his attention divided between his tablet and a stack of documents. At 42, Maxwell Morgan carried the weight of his empire on broad shoulders that seemed to have hunched slightly since becoming both mother and father to Lily. "Good morning, Princess," he said, his smile not quite reaching his tired eyes. "Did you sleep well?" Lily nodded, climbing onto her chair where Mrs. Patterson had arranged her favorite breakfast, heart-shaped pancakes with strawberries. "I dreamed about Mommy again," she said softly. A shadow crossed Maxwell's face, that familiar mixture of grief and helplessness. "What did she say this time?" "She said to watch the smiles that don't reach the eyes," Lily answered, stabbing a strawberry with her fork. Maxwell exchanged a glance with Mrs. Patterson, who busied herself with the coffee pot. These strange, prophetic-sounding statements had become more frequent since Catherine's death. "Darling," Maxwell began, setting down his tablet, "I have something important to tell you. Heather will be coming to live with us next week." Lily stopped chewing. Heather Collins, her father's girlfriend of 3 months, was beautiful, with her perfect blonde hair and designer clothes. But whenever Lily was alone with her, the woman's smile changed, becoming tight and false. "Forever?" Lily asked, her small voice suddenly smaller. "We'll see where things go," Maxwell answered, his tone brightening artificially. "Won't that be nice? She's very fond of you." Before Lily could respond, the doorbell chimed. Mrs. Patterson excused herself, returning moments later with Aunt Eleanor, her mother's sister, and the person who understood Lily best. "There's my favorite niece," Eleanor exclaimed, her arms outstretched. Unlike Heather, Eleanor's warmth never felt calculated. Her eyes crinkled genuinely when she smiled, just like Lily's mother's had. "Aunt Ellie!" Lily jumped from her chair, running into her aunt's embrace. Maxwell rose, kissing his sister-in-law's cheek. "Eleanor, I wasn't expecting you this morning." "The best visits are surprises," Eleanor replied with a wink at Lily. "Besides, I brought those children's books I mentioned." As the adults exchanged pleasantries, Lily tugged her aunt's hand. "Heather is moving in with us," she whispered. Eleanor's smile faltered slightly. "Is that so?" She looked at Maxwell, who nodded. "I thought it was time," he said firmly. "Catherine would want me to move forward." Eleanor's expression remained carefully neutral, but Lily noticed how her aunt's hand tightened around hers. "Of course," Eleanor said. "Moving forward is important, but so is making sure the path ahead is clear." That evening, as Mrs. Patterson tucked her in, Lily stared at the ceiling. "Mrs. Patterson, why doesn't Daddy see what I see when Heather looks at me?" The housekeeper smoothed Lily's covers. "Sometimes adults only see what they want to see, Miss Lily. But don't you worry. There are still those of us who see everything clearly." Outside Lily's window, a storm was brewing, dark clouds gathering on the horizon, much like the changes coming to the Morgan household. The morning Heather Collins moved into the Morgan mansion, she arrived in a sleek black Mercedes carrying Surprisingly few possessions for someone about to start a new life. Maxwell greeted her with the enthusiasm of a man desperate to find happiness again, while Lily watched from the grand staircase, clutching her favorite teddy bear. "Lily, darling, come down and help Heather feel welcome," Maxwell called, his voice carrying an edge of hopefulness that made Mrs. Patterson glance sympathetically at the child. Heather turned her perfect smile toward Lily. "Hello, sweetie. I brought you something." She extended a beautifully wrapped package topped with an elaborate bow. Lily descended slowly, each step deliberate. When she reached the bottom, Heather knelt down, her designer dress pooling around her. "We're going to be great friends, you and I," she said, her voice honeyed in Maxwell's presence. "Thank you," Lily whispered, accepting the gift, but not meeting Heather's eyes. "Open it, princess," Maxwell encouraged, his hand resting on Heather's shoulder. Inside was an expensive porcelain doll with blonde hair and blue eyes, just like Heather. "She looks like you," Lily observed quietly. "That's the idea," Heather laughed, tossing her hair. "Now you'll always have a little me around." Later that afternoon, Mrs. Patterson found Lily in the kitchen, the doll sitting untouched on the counter. "Not fond of your new friend, Miss Lily?" she asked gently, placing cookies and milk before the child. "She's watching me," Lily said simply. "Her eyes follow me around the room." Mrs. Patterson nodded thoughtfully. "Sometimes we sense things others can't see. Your mother was the same way." "Daddy doesn't see it," Lily whispered, dunking a cookie half-heartedly. "Your father is still healing, dear one. When people are in pain, they sometimes reach for whatever comfort appears before them." Mrs. Patterson's weathered hands stilled on the counter. "But don't you worry. Those of us who see clearly will keep watching." Over the ball. Next few weeks, the mansion's atmosphere shifted subtly. Heather rearranged furniture, replaced family photos with modern art, and suggested a complete redecoration of Catherine's former study. Changes Maxwell accepted with the compliance of a man too exhausted to resist. Mrs. Patterson observed how Heather's demeanor transformed when Maxwell wasn't present, how her voice sharpened when addressing the staff, how her gaze hardened when it fell on Lily. One evening, while Maxwell worked late at the office, the housekeeper overheard Heather. "In the garden pavilion. Everything's proceeding perfectly, Marcus," Heather said into her phone, her voice dropping to a whisper. "He's completely vulnerable. No, the kid is suspicious, but who's going to believe a 5-year-old with an overactive imagination? Just stick to the plan and our future is set." Mrs. Patterson retreated silently, her heart pounding. That night, she called Eleanor. "I've been worried about this," Eleanor said, her voice tight with concern. "Maxwell won't listen to me. He thinks I'm being overprotective of Lily, or that I can't accept Catherine is gone." "The child sees through this woman," Mrs. Patterson insisted, "just like Catherine would have." "I'll try talking to him again," Eleanor promised. "In the meantime, keep Lily close and keep watching." The next day, Eleanor visited under the pretense of bringing more books for Lily. Finding Maxwell alone in his study, she seized the opportunity. "Have you had Heather checked out?" she asked directly. "A background check, references, anything?" Maxwell's expression hardened. "She's not applying for a job, Eleanor. She's my girlfriend, who suddenly appeared in your life 4 months after Catherine died," Eleanor countered. "Don't you find that convenient? A beautiful, charming woman interested in a grieving widower, with billions in assets?" "That's enough," Maxwell snapped, rising from his desk. "Catherine would want me to be happy. Heather makes me happy. She's good for Lily, too. She's trying so hard to connect with her." "Is she? Or is she isolating Lily from those who truly care about her?" Eleanor persisted. "I'm suggesting a simple background check, Maxwell. If there's nothing to hide, there's no harm done." "I said enough." Maxwell's voice rose uncharacteristically. "I've lost my wife. Don't make me lose my sister-in-law, too." Eleanor's face softened. "You won't lose me, Maxwell. But please be careful. For Lily's sake, if not your own." Meanwhile, Lily had discovered her own ways of observing Heather. She noticed how the woman spent hours in her father's study when he wasn't home, rifling through drawers and examining papers, how she would slip away to make phone calls in the garden, always checking first to ensure no one was nearby. One evening, as Lily pretended to read in the library, Heather entered, not noticing the child partially hidden behind a large armchair. "The security codes have been changed," Heather said urgently into her phone. "I need more time to access the offshore accounts. Yes, he trusts me, but these things can't be rushed. The wedding needs to happen first, then we can move to phase 2. I know, Marcus. Patience has never been your strong suit, but think about what's at stake." Lily sat frozen, hardly breathing until Heather left. She didn't understand everything she'd heard, but she knew one thing with absolute certainty. Heather was not who she pretended to be. That night at dinner, Maxwell had an announcement. "I have something special to share," he said, his face alight with an excitement Lily hadn't seen since before her mother died. He took Heather's hand across the table. "I've asked Heather to marry me, and she said yes. The wedding will be in 6 weeks. Heather extended her hand, displaying a massive diamond engagement ring. "We're going to be a family," she cooed, her eyes fixed on Lily with a smile that never reached them. "Isn't that wonderful, sweetheart? You'll be my little girl too." Lily felt the room spin slightly as Mrs. Patterson steadied a hand on her shoulder. Something terrible was happening, and no one, not even her beloved father, seemed able to see it. "Eleanor is undermining our relationship," Heather insisted, pacing Maxwell's bedroom as he prepared for work. "She fills Lily's head with doubts about me. It's not healthy for a child who's already experienced trauma." Maxwell sighed, adjusting his tie. "Eleanor was Catherine's closest confidant. She's just protective of Lily." "There's protective, and then there's interfering," Heather countered, her voice softening as she approached him, straightening his already perfect tie. "Lily needs stability now, not conflicting messages from adults. Maybe we should limit Eleanor's visits for a while, just until after the wedding when things settle down." Later that morning, Lily sat in the kitchen while Mrs. Patterson prepared lunch. "Mrs. Patterson, Heather doesn't want Aunt Ellie to visit anymore," she said quietly. The housekeeper's hand stilled. "Did your father agree to that?" Lily nodded sadly. "He said Aunt Ellie can only come once every 2 weeks now, and only when he's home." Mrs. Patterson knelt beside Lily's chair. "Listen carefully, Miss Lily. Sometimes adults make mistakes because they can't see clearly. Your Aunt Eleanor loves you very much, and she would never abandon you. Do you understand?" "Like Mommy wouldn't," Lily whispered. "Exactly like that." Mrs. Patterson glanced toward the doorway before continuing. "Now, I want you to be extra observant. If you see Miss Heather doing anything unusual, you tell me right away." That evening, Lily crept down the hallway past her bedtime, drawn by the sound of hushed voices. From her hiding place behind a potted plant, she watched Heather slip through the French doors to the garden. Curious, Lily followed at a distance, staying in the shadows. In the gazebo, illuminated only by moonlight, Heather met a tall man with dark hair and sharp features. They spoke in urgent whispers, their heads close together. "6 weeks is too long," the man hissed. "Every day increases our risk." "And rushing increases it more," Heather snapped back. "I've got him wrapped around my finger, but his security team is thorough. Rodriguez especially, he watches everything." "Then get rid of Rodriguez," the man said flatly. "Not yet. That would raise too many questions. First, we isolate Maxwell from anyone who might influence him, starting with that meddling sister-in-law. Then we expedite the wedding and the transfer of assets." Heather's voice grew colder. "Besides, I've already begun administering small doses. By the time anyone notices something's wrong, it'll be too late." Lily's heart pounded so loudly she feared they would hear it. Backing away slowly, she bumped into a garden statue, causing a small noise. The conversation in the gazebo abruptly stopped. "What was that?" the man demanded. "Probably just an animal," Heather replied, but her voice had sharpened. "Go now, I'll contact you tomorrow." Lily raced back to the house, barely making it to her room before Heather returned inside. Trembling beneath her covers, she tried to make sense of what she'd heard. Who was that man? What did Heather mean by administering small doses? She needed to tell someone, Mrs. Patterson, Aunt Eleanor, even her father. But would they believe her? The next morning, the head of security, Mr. Rodriguez, was reviewing footage in his office when he noticed something odd. System malfunction. In Sector 4, 11:42 p.m. to 12:17 a.m., he muttered, making a note. This was the third such malfunction in 2 weeks, always affecting the same garden-facing cameras, always at night. Rodriguez was a former military intelligence officer who took his job protecting the Morgan family very seriously. Maxwell had hired him shortly after Lily was born, and he had developed a particular protective instinct toward the child who reminded him of his own daughter. He picked up his secure phone and dialed a number. Ms. Eleanor, this is Rodriguez. I think we need to talk. Meanwhile, Heather had escalated her campaign against Mrs. Patterson, complaining to Maxwell about supposed lapses in the housekeeper's work. The silver wasn't properly polished for our dinner party, she said, and I found dust on the bookshelves in the library. I hate to say it, darling, but I think age might be affecting her performance. Mrs. Patterson has been with us since before Lily was born, Maxwell replied, frowning. She's practically family. I understand the loyalty, Heather said soothingly. But sometimes change is necessary. My cousin Vanessa has excellent references as a household manager. Perhaps we could bring her in to help during the wedding preparations. Just temporarily, of course. That afternoon, Lily found Mrs. Patterson in the laundry room, methodically folding linens. Mrs. Patterson, I saw Heather in the garden last night with a man. They were talking about getting rid of Mr. Rodriguez and giving someone small doses. Something. The housekeeper's face paled. Did they see you, Miss Lily? I don't think so, but I heard the man's name. She called him Marcus. Mrs. Patterson set down the sheet she was folding with trembling hands. This is very serious, Miss Lily. You must be extremely careful around Miss Heather now. Don't let her know what you saw or heard. I need to make a phone call. As the wedding preparations accelerated, the mansion filled with planners, decorators, and caterers, strangers who made it easier for Heather to control access to Maxwell. She strategically scheduled his time to minimize his interactions with Lily, Eleanor, and even longtime staff members. At the 6-week mark before the wedding, Maxwell made a startling announcement at dinner. Mrs. Patterson will be retiring next week, he said, not quite meeting Lily's eyes. Heather's cousin Vanessa will be taking over as our new household manager. Lily's spoon clattered to her plate. But Mrs. Patterson can't leave. She promised to stay with me always. Now, Lily, Heather interjected with practiced patience. Mrs. Patterson is getting older and deserves her rest. Vanessa is wonderful. With children, you'll love her. I won't, Lily cried, tears streaming down her face. You're making everyone I love go away. That's quite enough, Maxwell said sternly, though his eyes betrayed his discomfort. Go to your room until you can behave properly. Later that night, Mrs. Patterson slipped into Lily's room, sitting gently on the edge of her bed. I may be leaving this house, Miss Lily, but I'm not leaving you, she whispered fiercely. Your Aunt Eleanor and I have a plan. Mr. Rodriguez is helping us too. She pressed a small object into Lily's hand, a child-sized phone in a pink case. Keep this hidden. If you see or hear anything worrying, or if you ever feel scared, press this button here. It will call me immediately. What about Daddy? Lily asked, her voice small in the darkness. Mrs. Patterson's silence spoke volumes. Your father loves you very much, she finally said. But sometimes love can blind people to danger. We're going to help him see clearly again. The next day, Lily was informed she would be meeting with a child psychologist, Dr. Winters, who would help her adjust to the changes in the household. She's highly recommended, Heather explained to Maxwell within Lily's hearing. Specializes in childhood trauma and adjustment disorders. If we address Lily's issues now, we can prevent more serious problems later. What Heather didn't mention was that Dr. Winters was an old acquaintance, one who owed her several favors and was known for diagnoses that conveniently aligned with her client's wishes. The grandfather clock in the hallway chimed midnight as Lily awoke suddenly, her heart racing. Something had disturbed her sleep. Voices, she realized, drifting up from downstairs. With her father away on an overnight business trip, the mansion should have been silent. Clutching her teddy bear in one hand and the secret phone Mrs. Patterson had given her in the other, Lily crept from her bed. The new housekeeper, Vanessa, slept soundly in the staff quarters on the opposite wing, conveniently far from Lily's room and the main areas of the house. The voices grew clearer as Lily descended the grand staircase, keeping to the shadows. Her father's study door was ajar, a sliver of light spilling into the darkened hallway. Heather's voice drifted out, tense and hushed. The prenuptial agreement complicates things, Marcus. His lawyer insists on ironclad protections for Lily's inheritance. That's why we need to accelerate the timeline, a male voice responded, the same man Lily had seen in the garden. Once you're married, we move to phase 2 immediately. No waiting. Lily inched closer, her small feet silent on the thick carpet. Through the crack in the door, she could see Heather pacing while a tall, dark-haired man leaned against her father's desk, rifling through papers. The substances are undetectable in standard toxicology, Marcus continued. We start with small doses after the wedding, increasing gradually. His illness will progress naturally, first fatigue, then confusion, eventually organ failure. By the time anyone suspects poisoning, you'll be the grieving widow with full control. And the child? Marcus asked, his voice cold. Heather waved dismissively. Dr. Winters is preparing documentation of severe psychological issues. After Maxwell's tragic passing, the poor traumatized child will require specialized institutional care. Indefinitely. A small gasp escaped Lily before she could stop herself. Inside the study, Marcus straightened abruptly. What was that? Heather moved toward the door with alarming speed. Lily tried to retreat, but her teddy bear caught on a decorative table toppling a small vase. That shattered on the marble floor. The door flew open and Heather stood framed in the light, her face transformed by fury. Gone was the warm, loving expression she wore for Maxwell, replaced by something cold and calculating. You little spy, she hissed, grabbing Lily's arm roughly. What did you hear? And nothing, Lily stammered, tears filling her eyes. I had a bad dream and was looking for you. Liar, Heather spat, her fingers digging into Lily's arm. Behind her, Marcus moved into view, his face expressionless as he observed the terrified child. She's just a kid, he said flatly. What's she going to do? Kids talk, Heather replied, her eyes never leaving Lily's face. Don't you, sweetheart? You love talking to your Aunt Eleanor and Mrs. Patterson about everything you see and hear. Please, Lily whimpered. You're hurting me. Heather's grip loosened slightly as her expression smoothed into something more controlled. You had a nightmare, Lily. A terrible nightmare that's making you confused and frightened. That's all this is. Part of your bad dream. Now I'm going to take you back to bed, and in the morning, you won't remember any of this. As Heather marched her up the stairs, Lily caught a final glimpse of Marcus watching from the study doorway, his cold eyes calculating as they followed. Her ascent. In her room, Heather tucked Lily in with mechanical efficiency. If you mention one word of your nightmare to anyone, your father, your aunt, anyone, they won't believe you. They'll just think you're a disturbed little girl who needs serious help. Is that what you want? Lily shook her head, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Good girl, Heather said, her voice honeyed again but her eyes still hard. Sweet dreams. After Heather left, Lily waited until the footsteps faded before pulling out the hidden phone. With trembling fingers, she pressed the emergency button. Mrs. Patterson had shown her. Miss Lily, came the immediate response. Are you all right? Between sobs, Lily recounted what she'd overheard. Mrs. Patterson listened in growing horror. You're very brave, she said when Lily finished. Now listen carefully. Don't confront Heather or let her know you've contacted me. Tomorrow, pretend everything is normal. Your father returns in the morning, and we need to find a way to make him understand the danger before it's too late. The next morning, Maxwell returned to find Heather waiting in the foyer, her face a mask of concern. "We need to talk about Lily," she said without preamble. "Something happened last night that has me deeply worried." Maxwell set down his briefcase, frowning. "What's wrong? Is she sick?" "Not physically," Heather said, lowering her voice. "I found her wandering the house at midnight, clearly disoriented. When I approached her, she became hysterical, claiming I was plotting with some man named Marcus to poison you and send her away." Maxwell's face paled. "What?" "It was like she was in some kind of dissociative state," Heather continued, her eyes filling with perfectly timed tears. "When I got her back to bed, she seemed to snap out of it, but Maxwell, I'm frightened for these delusions, this paranoia. It's beyond normal childhood imagination. She's been through a lot," Maxwell defended weakly. "Losing Catherine, adjusting to our relationship. This is more than adjustment issues," Heather insisted. "Remember how she claimed I was putting something in your food last month? And now these elaborate conspiracy theories? I've been researching. Childhood trauma specialists, and Dr. Winters is the best. She's agreed to see Lily today." "Today?" Maxwell hesitated. "Shouldn't we talk to Eleanor first? She's always been involved in Lily's care." Heather's expression hardened momentarily before softening into concern. "Eleanor loves Lily, but she's not a mental health professional. Dr. Winters specializes in childhood trauma and fantasy disorders. Please, Maxwell, let's get Lily the help she needs before this progresses." From the top of the stairs, Lily watched this exchange in silent terror, clutching the hidden phone in her pocket like a lifeline. Her father, exhausted from his trip and shaken by Heather's performance, was nodding in agreement. That afternoon, Dr. Winters arrived, a sleek, professional-looking woman with piercing eyes behind designer glasses. "I understand Lily's been experiencing some difficulties," she said smoothly as Maxwell introduced them in his study. "Thank you for coming on such short notice," Maxwell replied, rubbing his temples. "I'm at a loss for how to help her." Children who've experienced trauma often develop complex coping mechanisms, Dr. Winters explained. Sometimes these include paranoid ideation or elaborate fantasies that feel very real to them. When Lily was brought in, she immediately recognized the calculated assessment in Dr. Winters' gaze, the same cold evaluation she'd seen in Heather's eyes. "Hello, Lily," Dr. Winters said warmly, though her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Dr. Winters. I help children who are having a hard time telling what's real and what's not." "I know what's real," Lily said quietly. "Of course you do, sweetheart," Dr. Winters replied patronizingly. "Why don't you tell me about last night? Heather mentioned you had some frightening thoughts." Lily looked at her father, standing anxiously by the window, then at Heather, whose expression was a perfect mask of concern. She remembered Mrs. Patterson's warning to pretend everything was normal. "I had a bad dream," she said finally. "I got confused." Dr. Winters nodded, making a note. "That happens sometimes. What about other times when you felt scared or confused? Like when you thought Heather was putting something in your father's food?" Lily's stomach clenched. She'd never told anyone but Mrs. Patterson about that incident. How did Dr. Winters know unless Heather had told her? "I was mistaken," Lily whispered, her eyes downcast. The session continued for an hour, with Dr. Winters skillfully leading Lily through a series of questions designed to build a case for her supposed mental instability. By the end, Lily sat exhausted and defeated, while Dr. Winters conferred quietly with Maxwell and Heather in the corner. "Based on our initial assessment, I'm concerned about what appears to be childhood-onset schizophrenia, combined with separation anxiety and alienation syndrome," Dr. Winters announced gravely. "These conditions can worsen rapidly without intervention." "Schizophrenia?" Maxwell repeated, his face ashen. "But she's only 5. "Early onset is rare but serious," Dr. Winters continued smoothly. "I recommend intensive evaluation at our specialized center. 2 weeks of comprehensive assessment would give us a clear diagnosis and treatment plan." 2 weeks? Maxwell glanced at Lily, who sat small and silent in the large armchair. That seems excessive. Maxwell, Heather interjected, placing a hand on his arm. This is Lily's well-being we're talking about. If Dr. Winters believes she needs comprehensive evaluation, we should listen. As they discussed her fate as if she weren't present, Lily felt the phone in her pocket vibrate. A text message from Mrs. Patterson. Eleanor knows, help coming, stay strong. Lily clung to those words as Dr. Winters scheduled her evaluation to begin in 3 days. Conveniently, the same day her father was due to sign the final prenuptial agreement. Eleanor Morgan paced the length of her living room, phone pressed to her ear. James, I don't care what it costs. I need everything you can find on Heather Collins, and I need it yesterday. On the other end of the line, James Cooper, a former FBI agent turned private investigator, made notes. The name alone tells me she's hiding something, he said. Too generic, like something from a witness protection program. My niece's life depends on this, Eleanor said, her voice breaking slightly. And possibly my brother-in-law's too. After ending the call, Eleanor stared at the photos on her mantel. Her sister Catherine on her wedding day, radiant beside Maxwell. Baby Lily cradled in Catherine's arms. The three of them on Lily's 4th birthday, 6 months before Catherine's diagnosis. The pain of losing her sister was still raw, but the thought of losing Lily too was unbearable. Her phone rang, Mrs. Patterson, calling from her new apartment where she'd moved after her retirement. It's worse than we thought, the former housekeeper said without preamble. Lily called last night. She overheard Heather and someone named Marcus discussing plans to poison Mr. Morgan after the wedding and institutionalize Lily. Eleanor's blood ran cold. We need to get Lily out of that house. There's more, Mrs. Patterson continued grimly. This morning, Heather convinced Maxwell that Lily is having psychotic episodes. She's arranged for a Dr. Winters to evaluate her for intensive treatment. When? 3 days from now. The child will be removed to some facility for observation. Eleanor's mind raced. We need proof, something concrete Maxwell can't ignore. Did Rodriguez find anything on the security footage? Most of it's been tampered with, Mrs. Patterson replied. But he's installed some secondary cameras Heather doesn't know about. He's meeting me for coffee in an hour to share what he's found. At the Morgan mansion, Head of Security Rodriguez methodically reviewed the new hidden camera footage from the previous night. The tiny devices, disguised as ordinary household objects, had captured Heather's midnight meeting with her accomplice, though the audio quality was poor. More importantly, they'd recorded her confrontation with Lily in the hallway, including the moment she roughly grabbed the child's arm. Rodriguez downloaded the footage to an encrypted drive, his jaw tightening. A 20-year military career had taught him to recognize threats, and Heather Collins had set off his internal alarms from day one. Her background check had been suspiciously perfect. No parking tickets, no previous addresses more than 5 years old. References that checked out but seemed rehearsed. His secure phone buzzed with a text from Eleanor. Cooper found something. Meet at the cafe. Across town, James Cooper hunched over his computer in his Spartan office. After hours of deep digging through databases few civilians could access, he'd hit pay dirt. Heather Collins had appeared out of nowhere 5 years ago. But Rebecca Stone had a lengthy history across 3 states, always following the same pattern. Charming, wealthy, vulnerable men, orchestrating accidents or mysterious illnesses, then disappearing with substantial assets. And in each case, a man named Marcus Reed had been peripherally involved, sometimes as a handyman, once as a private nurse, never directly implicated, but always nearby when tragedy struck. Cooper printed the files, including mugshots from a decade-old fraud charge that had been mysteriously dropped. The woman in the photos was undeniably Heather Collins, albeit with darker hair and a different name. At the cafe, Eleanor, Mrs. Patterson, Cooper, and Rodriguez assembled like generals planning a war. She's had at least 3 identities that I can trace, Cooper explained, spreading photos across the table. Rebecca Stone, Allison Price, Emily Lawrence, all with the same M.O. seducing wealthy, recently widowed or divorced men, isolating them from family and friends, then either marrying them quickly or becoming sole beneficiary of their wills before they meet with unfortunate accidents. And this Marcus Reed? Eleanor asked, studying a grainy surveillance photo of the dark-haired man. Her partner, possibly romantic, definitely criminal. He usually infiltrates the household or business in some capacity. Security consultant, property manager, whatever. Gets him access. Rodriguez nodded grimly. That explains the security breaches. Someone's been tampering with our systems from inside. What about this Dr. Winters? Mrs. Patterson asked. Cooper's expression darkened. Margaret Winters lost her medical license in Pennsylvania 5 years ago for ethical violations, inappropriate medication of minors in foster care. She runs a behavioral modification center just outside the state line. It's technically legal, but there have been complaints. Eleanor's hands clenched into fists. They're planning to drug Maxwell and institutionalize Lily. We need to move. Quickly, Rodriguez advised. Once Lily's removed from the property, extraction becomes exponentially more difficult. Maxwell won't believe us without proof, Eleanor said. He's completely under her spell. Then we get proof, Cooper replied, tapping the surveillance footage. And we make contingency plans for Lily's safety, in case Maxwell can't or won't act in time. As they strategized, none of them noticed the woman at the next table who'd been listening intently while pretending to read a magazine. Vanessa, Heather's cousin and the new housekeeper, slipped away to make a call. They know, she said tersely when Heather answered. The sister-in-law has hired an investigator. They have your photo from the Ohio case. How much do they know? About the plan, Heather demanded, her voice ice-cold. Enough. They've connected you to Marcus and Dr. Winters. They know about the Institute. Heather was silent for a moment, calculating. Move up the timetable. Tell Marcus to accelerate the security override tonight. I'll double the dosage in Maxwell's evening drink and inform Dr. Winters we're bringing the child in tomorrow, not in 3 days. What about the security chief? Rodriguez, Marcus. We'll handle him, Heather replied. Tonight. Back at the mansion, Lily sat in her room pretending to read while Vanessa organized her closet, clearly monitoring her. The hidden phone in her pocket felt like it was burning a hole through the fabric, but she didn't dare check it with Vanessa watching. Sweetheart? Heather's voice called from the doorway, honeyed and false. Your father's feeling a bit under the weather this evening, so we'll have dinner just us girls. Won't that be nice? Lily looked up, her heart racing at the triumphant gleam in Heather's eyes. Something had changed. The plan was accelerating. Whatever was going to happen would happen soon, and Lily needed to warn the adults who were trying to help her before it was too late. Maxwell Morgan had always believed in making occasions special. Despite feeling unusually fatigued that morning, a symptom he attributed to wedding stress, he had arranged an elaborate lunch to formally announce his engagement to the board members and key investors of Morgan Innovations. Are you sure you're up for this? Heather asked solicitously as she straightened his tie. You look pale, darling. Just tired, Maxwell assured her, though privately he was concerned about the persistent headache that had plagued him for days. Nothing that coffee can't fix. The grand dining room of the Morgan mansion had been transformed for the occasion. Crystals sparkled, silver gleamed, and floral arrangements worthy of a magazine spread adorned the massive table. Chef Andre, brought in specially for the event, directed his team in the kitchen while servers in crisp uniforms prepared to attend to the 20 distinguished guests. Lily, dressed in a navy blue dress with a white collar, sat quietly in the corner of the kitchen, watching the preparations with wary eyes. Since Mrs. Patterson's departure, the kitchen had become her sanctuary, the one place Vanessa didn't constantly hover, thanks to Chef Andre's territorial nature regarding his workspace. Miss Lily, you look très sérieuse today, the chef observed, pausing in his orchestration of the meal preparation. Perhaps you would like to help me garnish the appetizers, no? Lily nodded, grateful for the distraction. As she carefully placed sprigs of fresh herbs on tiny canapes, she kept one eye on the kitchen door. Heather rarely entered the kitchen. She considered it beneath her, but today was special, and Lily sensed something was about to happen. Her intuition proved correct when Heather swept in, her designer dress impeccable, her smile fixed. Everything. On schedule, chef. The first guests are arriving. Mais oui, madame. André replied with professional courtesy, though Lily had noticed he too seemed wary of her father's fiancée. The first course will be served precisely at 1 o'clock. Heather nodded approvingly, then spotted Lily. Sweetheart, you should be greeting guests with your father, not hiding in the kitchen. Before Lily could respond, a commotion near the service entrance caught everyone's attention. One of the servers had dropped a tray, sending cutlery clattering across the floor. While Chef André rushed to address the disaster, Heather's attention was momentarily diverted. In that brief window, Lily saw her reach into her clutch purse and extract a small vial containing white powder. With practiced efficiency, Heather moved to the plating station where Maxwell's special meal, adjusted for his recently developed dietary restrictions, was being prepared separately. Lily froze, her heart pounding as she watched Heather sprinkle the powder over her father's plate, quickly stirring it into the sauce with a small spoon. She then slipped into her purse. The entire action took less than 5 seconds. What a mess, Heather commented regarding the dropped tray, then turned back to Lily. Come along now, sweetheart, your father's waiting. Lily didn't move, her eyes fixed on her father's contaminated plate. I need to use the bathroom first. She managed, her voice small. Heather's eyes narrowed slightly, but with staff all around, she maintained her pleasant facade. Don't be long. The announcement will be made before the first course. The moment Heather left, Lily slipped her hand into her dress pocket, clutching the secret phone. She'd promised Mrs. Patterson and Aunt Eleanor she would call if anything suspicious happened, but there wasn't time. Lunch would be served in minutes. In the dining room, Maxwell stood at the head of the table, greeting board members and investors, with handshakes and small talk. Though several guests noticed his pallor and the slight tremor in his hands, Heather circulated among them, charming and attentive, while maintaining a watchful eye on the kitchen door. When Lily hadn't emerged after several minutes, Heather's smile tightened. She excused herself and returned to the kitchen, only to find Lily wasn't there. Where is Miss Morgan? She demanded of Chef André. She mentioned something about the bathroom, madame, he replied, focused on the final plating. In fact, Lily had slipped away to her father's study where she knew the house. Phone couldn't be monitored by Heather or Vanessa. With shaking fingers, she dialed her aunt's number. Aunt Ellie, she whispered when Eleanor answered. Heather put something in Daddy's food. I saw her. They're about to serve it. Where are you now, Lily? Eleanor asked urgently. In Daddy's study. Everyone's in the dining room for the announcement. Lunch. Stay where you are, Eleanor instructed. Mr. Rodriguez and I are 10 minutes away. We're coming to get you. But Daddy's going to eat the poison, Lily cried. I have to stop him. Lily, listen to me. Eleanor's voice grew stern. Heather is dangerous if she realizes you saw her. But Lily had already made up her mind. I have to save him, she said, then hung up and ran toward the dining room. She arrived just as servers were entering with the first course. Maxwell stood at the head of the table, champagne glass raised, Heather radiant beside him. Before we enjoy this magnificent lunch, Maxwell was saying, I want to thank you all for coming to share in this joyous occasion. As you know, the past year has been difficult for my family, but with Heather by my side. Stop! Lily's voice rang out as she burst into the room. Daddy, don't eat the food. She put something in it. I saw her. The room fell silent, 20 pairs of eyes turning toward the small girl in the doorway. Maxwell's face flushed with embarrassment and anger. Lily, that's enough, he said sharply. Apologize to our guests immediately. No, Daddy, please. Lily rushed forward as a server placed his special plate before him. I saw her in the kitchen. She put white powder in your food. Heather's composure slipped for just a second before she recovered, her face a mask of concerned sympathy. Oh, Maxwell, this is exactly what Dr. Winters was talking about. These delusions are getting worse. One of the board members, Dr. Howard Chen, leaned forward with professional interest. White powder, you say? As head of pharmaceutical development at Morgan Innovations, his scientific curiosity was piqued. It's nothing, Heather said quickly. Lily has been having episodes lately, confusing reality with imagination. We have her seeing a specialist. Nevertheless, Dr. Chen continued, perhaps we should take precautions. He turned to Maxwell. No offense intended, but if your daughter believes she saw something, it might be prudent to check just to reassure her. Maxwell hesitated, looking between his distraught daughter and his increasingly agitated fiancée. This is ridiculous, Heather protested. You're letting a child's fantasy disrupt an important event. It would only take a moment, Dr. Chen persisted. I have a portable testing kit in my car. Force of habit from my lab days. It can detect most common toxins. There's no need, Heather began, but was interrupted by the arrival of Mr. Rodriguez, who entered the dining room with quick, purposeful strides. Mr. Morgan, I need to speak with you immediately, he said, his professional demeanor belied by the urgency in his eyes. It's a security matter that can't wait. Confusion reigned as guests murmured among themselves. Maxwell, clearly torn and increasingly pale, finally nodded to Dr. Chen. Test the food if you wish. I trust my daughter's character, even if her imagination sometimes runs wild. As Dr. Chen left to retrieve his testing kit, Heather's careful mask began to crack. This is absurd. I won't stand here and be accused by a child with obvious psychological issues. No one has accused you of anything, Heather, Maxwell said quietly, though his expression had grown thoughtful as he observed her uncharacteristic reaction. Lily, emboldened by her father's support, pointed at Heather's purse. The spoon she used is in her bag. She put it there after stirring the powder. Before anyone could react, Eleanor Morgan appeared in the doorway, James Cooper at her side. I believe this lunch is over, she announced calmly. Maxwell, we need to talk now. Heather's eyes darted between the exits, calculating her options as Rodriguez positioned himself strategically by the main door. The perfect engagement announcement had descended into chaos, her carefully constructed facade crumbling under Lily's simple, devastating truth. Check her purse, Lily insisted, her small voice carrying an authority beyond her years. The spoon is proof. In that moment, something shifted in Maxwell's eyes, a clearing as if fog was lifting. He turned to Heather, his hand extended. Your purse, please. This is outrageous, Heather spluttered, clutching her designer bag to her chest. I won't be subjected to this humiliation. It's a simple request, Maxwell replied, his voice hardening. If there's nothing to hide, there's nothing to fear. As the standoff intensified, Dr. Chen returned with his testing kit. Shall I proceed with the analysis? He asked, glancing at the untouched plate before Maxwell. Please do, Maxwell answered, his eyes never leaving Heather's increasingly panicked face. The room held its collective breath as Dr. Chen conducted his test, the silence broken only by the soft clicking of his equipment. After what seemed an eternity, he looked up, his expression grave. There are significant traces of arsenic in this sauce, he announced. Not enough for immediate lethal effect, but consistent with long-term poisoning. Accumulated doses would eventually cause organ failure. Gasps echoed around the table as guests recoiled in horror. Maxwell staggered slightly, gripping the back of his chair for support as the implications sank in. Not just the immediate attempt, but his recent symptoms as well. Security! Rodriguez barked into his radio. Lock down the premises. No one enters or leaves. In the ensuing confusion, Heather made her move, shoving past a server and bolting for the terrace doors. Rodriguez intercepted her smoothly, his military training evident in the efficient way he blocked her escape. Rebecca Stone, he said coldly, using her real name. You're not going anywhere. As security personnel swarmed into the room and shocked, guests were escorted out. Lily ran to her father, wrapping her arms around his legs. I tried to tell you, Daddy, she sobbed. I saw the real her, but no one would believe me. Maxwell knelt, gathering his daughter into a fierce embrace. his face ashen with the realization of how close he'd come to dismissing the truth. "I believe you now, Princess," he whispered, "and I'll never doubt you again." Eleanor approached, placing a protective hand on Lily's shoulder. "The police are on their way," she said quietly, "and a medical team. You need to be checked out, Maxwell. There's no telling how much of this poison is already in your system." As paramedics arrived and Heather was detained in another room, Maxwell looked up at his sister-in-law, regret and gratitude mingling in his eyes. "How did you know?" "We've been investigating her for weeks," Eleanor explained. "James Cooper found evidence of previous identities, previous victims, but we didn't have proof of her current plan until Lily called me today." Maxwell's gaze returned to his daughter, seeing for the first time how the trauma of losing her mother had sharpened rather than dulled her perceptions. "You saved my life today," he told her solemnly. "You saw what I was too blind to see." As medical personnel escorted Maxwell to an ambulance for evaluation, Lily remained at his side, her small hand clutched firmly in his. The engagement lunch had become a crime scene, the fairy tale romance revealed as a deadly con, and the imaginative child dismissed as unreliable had proven to be the most clear-eyed person in the mansion. In the kitchen, Chef Andre discovered an unconscious security guard hidden in the pantry, evidence of how Heather had created her opportunity to poison the food. And in Heather's purse, investigators found not only the spoon Lily had mentioned, but also the vial of white powder, a burner phone, and detailed notes on Maxwell's symptoms and schedule. The perfect crime had been unraveled by the most unlikely detective, a 5-year-old girl who had inherited her mother's gift for seeing through false smiles to the truth beneath. Despite the dramatic lunch confrontation, Heather's carefully laid contingency plans proved effective. The evidence against her, the poisoned food sample, mysteriously disappeared from police custody overnight. Without conclusive proof and with her expensive lawyer arguing convincingly about a child's imagination and family drama, Heather was released on bail within 24 hours. Maxwell, though shaken by the incident, found himself in a legal quagmire. Preliminary blood tests showed concerning levels of heavy metals, but not conclusively criminal. The police investigation stalled without the key evidence. "This is outrageous," Eleanor fumed as she paced Maxwell's hospital room. "We all know what she tried to do." "Knowing isn't proving," Maxwell replied wearily. His complexion had a grayish tinge, and the doctors had confirmed his system showed signs of long-term toxicity. The situation worsened when Dr. Winters arrived with court documents. "In light of recent events," she announced with clinical detachment, "I've recommended immediate therapeutic intervention for Lily. The psychological trauma of these accusations requires specialized care." "You can't be serious," Eleanor protested. "Lily was right about everything. A child fantasizing about poisoning, who then creates a public scene resulting in actual testing for poison?" Dr. Winters raised an eyebrow. "This is textbook projection and attention-seeking behavior." Maxwell, still weakened and confused from the toxins in his system, found himself outmaneuvered by the combined pressure from medical and legal authorities. "It's only for 2 weeks," Dr. Winters assured him. "A structured therapeutic environment will help Lily process these events." The next morning, a car arrived to transport Lily to the Institute Sunshine. Eleanor had spent the night desperately seeking legal intervention, but failed to secure an emergency hearing. "I don't want to go," Lily sobbed, clinging to her father's hospital bed. "It's just for a little while, Princess," Maxwell whispered, his own eyes wet. "To help you feel better." "But I'm not sick." "She is." As attendants from the Institute gently, but firmly led Lily away, Rodriguez approached Eleanor in the hallway. "This isn't over," he promised quietly. "I'll keep investigating while she's away. We'll get her back." Through the car's rear window, Lily watched her world disappear, feeling more alone than she had since her mother died. Institute Sunshine sat on 20 manicured, acres surrounded by an ornate iron fence that seemed more designed to keep people in than out. The Spanish-style building's cheerful yellow exterior belied the strict regimen within. Lily's first impression was of overwhelming whiteness. White walls, white uniforms, white beds in the dormitory where she was assigned. The facility housed 30 children between ages 5 to 12, all with behavioral issues, requiring specialized intervention. "You'll adjust," said the nurse, processing her arrival, her smile not reaching her eyes, just like Heather's. That evening, in the common room, Lily sat alone until a girl with bright red hair approached. "I'm Emma," she said, plopping down beside Lily. "I've been here 3 months. This is Tyler," she added, gesturing to a solemn boy who joined them. "Why are you here?" Tyler asked bluntly. "My dad's girlfriend tried to poison him, but nobody believes." "Me," Lily replied, expecting disbelief. Instead, Emma nodded matter-of-factly. "Adults never believe the important stuff." Tyler leaned closer. "The trick is to seem like you're getting better. Do what they want during therapy. Take the pills, but hide them under your tongue." "Pills?" Lily asked, alarmed. "They'll start you on them tomorrow," Emma explained. "They make you foggy." The next morning, Lily met Claire Bennett, a new social worker with kind eyes and a genuine smile. Unlike the other staff who treated the children with detached efficiency, Claire actually listened. "I don't think I belong here," Lily ventured. During their first session, Claire studied her thoughtfully. "Why don't you tell me your story, and I'll make up my own mind." When Lily finished her account, Claire's professional demeanor couldn't hide her concern. "That's quite a situation," she said carefully. "I'll need to review your file." Later that week, Eleanor attempted to visit, only to be turned away. "Family visitation begins after the 2-week adjustment period," the receptionist recited mechanically. "That's my niece in there," Eleanor argued. "She needs family support. Dr. Winters has specifically noted that outside influences could disrupt the therapeutic process." Eleanor retreated to her car, fighting tears of frustration. Inside her purse, her phone buzzed with a text from Cooper. "Found something. Meet me at your place in an hour." James Cooper spread photographs across Eleanor's dining table. "Heather Collins is actually Rebecca Stone, who was previously Allison Gray and before that Jessica Miller. She's connected to at least 3 cases of wealthy men who suffered mysterious health crises after becoming involved with her." "What happened to them?" Eleanor asked, dreading the answer. 2 died before anyone suspected foul play. The 3rd survived, but with permanent neurological damage. She disappeared with millions each time. Meanwhile, at the Institute, Claire Bennett was growing increasingly troubled by her observations. Lily Morgan showed none of the symptoms described in her file. In fact, she was one of the most lucid and well-adjusted children Claire had encountered. When Claire questioned Dr. Winters about the diagnosis, she received a sharp rebuke. "Ms. Bennett, you've been here less than a month. Trust the process." That evening, finding Lily alone in the quiet room, Claire made an impulsive decision. "Would you like to call your aunt?" she whispered, offering her personal cell phone. Lily's eyes widened. "Really?" "Quickly," Claire urged, glancing toward the door. When Eleanor's phone rang with an unknown number, she answered cautiously. "Aunt Ellie!" Lily's voice came through barely above a whisper. "Lily, are you all right? Are they treating you well? They give us medicine that makes everyone sleepy, but I hide mine like Emma showed me," Lily explained rapidly. "Have you found proof about Heather yet?" "We're working on it, sweetheart. James Cooper has discovered her real identity." "I can only talk for a minute," Lily said urgently. "There's a nice lady helping me." "That's enough time," Claire interrupted, gently, appearing behind Lily. "We need to go before someone notices." As Claire ended the call, Eleanor felt the first spark of hope in days. Lily had found an ally inside. Across town, Maxwell Morgan sat in his home office, fighting waves of dizziness. Despite the lunch incident, he couldn't shake the feeling he was missing something important. His memory felt clouded, and simple tasks required increasing effort. When his phone rang with his doctor's office canceling his appointment, supposedly at Maxwell's own request, he frowned in confusion. He hadn't canceled anything. Before he could investigate further, Heather appeared in the doorway. "You look exhausted, darling," she said solicitously. "I've brought your supplements." Cooper arrived at Eleanor's apartment with a triumphant expression. "Got her," he announced, dropping a file on the coffee table. Inside was a police photo of Rebecca Stone, wanted for fraud in 3 states. The woman in the photo was unmistakably Heather, though with darker hair and a harder expression. More damning was the photo beside it. Marcus Reed, her known accomplice in previous schemes. "They work as a team," Cooper explained. "She seduces the target while he infiltrates the business or household staff. They've perfected their approach. Over the years, we need to show this to Maxwell immediately," Eleanor insisted, reaching for her phone. "That's the other reason I'm here," Cooper said grimly. "Your brother-in-law was admitted to Memorial Hospital an hour ago after collapsing. During a board meeting, Eleanor's blood ran cold. She's accelerating her timeline. At the hospital, they found security stationed outside Maxwell's room. Not hospital security, but private guards who blocked their entry. Family only, one stated flatly. "I am family." Eleanor protested. "I'm his sister-in-law." Inside the room, they glimpsed Heather Rebecca speaking intensely with a doctor neither recognized. Through the partially open door, they overheard fragments. "Private facility. Better equipped. Transfer tomorrow." Rodriguez appeared beside them, his expression grave. "We have a problem. She's produced documents giving her medical power of attorney." "That's impossible," Eleanor gasped. "Maxwell would never—" "The documents appear legitimate, signed 3 weeks ago when, according to staff, Mr. Morgan was experiencing episodes of confusion." "We're running out of time," Cooper muttered. "If she gets him transferred to a private facility, we'll lose access completely." Heather maintained a continuous presence at Maxwell's bedside, controlling all visits and information. The doctor she'd brought in, Dr. Morris, diagnosed exhaustion and recommended limited stimulation. "His condition is delicate," Heather explained, to the nurses with practiced concern. His sister-in-law's dramatic accusations would only upset him. When Eleanor finally managed to gain 5 minutes with Maxwell by claiming a legal document needed his signature, she found him alarmingly changed. His skin had a yellowish tinge, his speech was slightly slurred, and his once sharp eyes appeared unfocused. "Maxwell, listen to me," she urged, keeping her voice low. "Heather is poisoning you. We have proof of who she really is." He stared at her with confused recognition. "Eleanor? Where's Lily?" "She has Lily too, in that institute. We, need to get you both out." Before Maxwell could respond, Heather returned with Dr. Morris. "I think that's enough excitement," she said smoothly, ushering Eleanor out. In the hallway, Eleanor spotted Dr. Thomas, Maxwell's longtime personal physician, and frantically waved him over. "They won't let you see him," she warned, "but I need to know what would cause his symptoms." Yellowing skin, confusion, slurred speech. Dr. Thomas frowned. "Without examining him, I couldn't say definitively, but those symptoms are consistent with liver damage, possibly from heavy metal poisoning." At the institute, Claire Bennett discovered disturbing notes in Dr. Winter's office. Plans to extend Lily's stay indefinitely, with increasing medication dosages to manage resistant behavior. When Claire questioned this, Dr. Winters smiled. Thinly, "We've received updated instructions from the family. The child's condition is more serious than initially assessed." That night, Claire made a decision that could cost her career. She searched for Lily's contact information and placed a call to Eleanor Morgan. Eleanor's apartment became command central for Operation Rescue, as Mrs. Patterson dubbed their efforts. Present were Cooper, Rodriguez, Claire, who had taken a personal Dewey's, and Dr. Thomas. "Heather, or Rebecca, has arranged to transfer Maxwell tomorrow morning to a private clinic in the mountains," Rodriguez reported. "The facility exists, but investigating its patient outcomes revealed disturbing patterns. Meanwhile, Dr. Winters has approved extended treatment for Lily, with concerning medication changes," Claire added. "The institute is scheduling an assessment. Visit tomorrow with state regulators. Security will be reduced during the inspection. Cooper spread a building plan across the table. The institute has 3 exits. During inspections, all patients are kept in the central wing while officials tour the facilities wing by wing. I've prepared documentation regarding Maxwell's symptoms, Dr. Thomas said, placing a medical file beside the plans. But we need current samples to prove ongoing poisoning. Mrs. Patterson, silent until now, placed a small bag on the table. I may have solved that problem, she said. I still have friends on the household staff. This morning, I delivered flowers to Mr. Morgan's home and was able to collect these, the supplements Heather has been giving him. Dr. Thomas examined the pills with narrowed eyes. These need testing immediately. I know someone at the toxicology lab who, owes me a favor, Cooper said. We can have results within hours. As night fell, the unlikely alliance finalized their plan, a coordinated effort to rescue both Morgans simultaneously. What about legal authority? Claire asked practically. Even with proof of poisoning, Heather has medical power of attorney. Leave. That to me, Cooper replied. I have a judge who specializes in elder abuse cases. Once we have the toxicology results, she'll issue emergency orders. Eleanor looked around at the determined faces. People who had come together to protect her. Family when all official channels had failed. Tomorrow, we bring them home, she said, her voice steady with resolve. Dawn found Mrs. Patterson in the hospital parking lot, dressed in the uniform of a florist delivery service. The bouquet she carried concealed a small collection vial and sampling tools provided by Dr. Thomas. Delivery for Mr. Morgan, she announced at the nurse's station, her familiar face earning her a nod of recognition from staff who remembered her from Maxwell's previous hospital stays. Room 412, but his fiancée has restricted visitors, the nurse whispered sympathetically. Mrs. Patterson's timing was perfect. Heather had stepped out for a rare coffee break, leaving a junior guard who was easily charmed by the grandmotherly woman with flowers. Just put them by the window, he said, barely glancing up from his phone. While arranging the bouquet, Mrs. Patterson swiftly collected samples from the IV bag and the array of supplements on the bedside table. Maxwell stirred slightly but didn't. Wake, his breathing shallow and labored. Hang on, Mr. Morgan, she murmured. Help is coming. Across town, Rodriguez had used his security credentials to access the mansion's monitoring systems. Working through the night, he discovered a sophisticated override protocol installed throughout the network. Digital fingerprints that weren't there before Heather arrived. It's worse than we thought, he told Cooper via secure line. Marcus has compromised the entire security infrastructure, mansion, office, even personal accounts. Financial transfers have been quietly authorized for tomorrow morning, nearly $50 million to offshore accounts. Cooper cursed softly. They're going to drain him dry and disappear. The toxicology results arrived by mid-morning. The supplements contained alarming levels of arsenic and digitalis, while the IV solution showed traces of sedatives not ordered by any legitimate doctor. This is attempted murder, Dr. Thomas stated flatly, reviewing the results. These levels would cause complete organ failure within days. With this evidence, Cooper secured emergency orders from Judge Winters. No relation to the doctor, he noted ironically. The documents authorized immediate medical intervention, revoked the fraudulent power of attorney, and granted Eleanor temporary guardianship of both Maxwell and Lily. We move at 2 p.m., Cooper told the assembled team. The hospital first, then the institute. Everyone knows their roles? Eleanor clutched the court orders, her hands steady despite her racing heart. Let's bring them home. The elevator doors opened on the 4th floor of Memorial Hospital at precisely 2:04 p.m. Eleanor emerged first, flanked by Cooper and Dr. Thomas. Behind them came 2 police officers and a hospital administrator who had been horrified by the toxicology reports. Remember, Cooper cautioned, she's cornered and dangerous, let me do the talking. They rounded the corner to find the private security guard arguing with a transport team. The transfer was scheduled for 3i, he insisted. We received updated instructions, the team leader replied, checking his clipboard. Patient Morgan is to be moved immediately. Eleanor recognized Heather's contingency plan activating. She was accelerating the timeline, sensing the net closing around her. "There will be no transfer," Eleanor announced, her voice carrying down the hallway. All heads turned as the group approached, court orders extended. "By order of Judge Harriet Wilson, Maxwell Morgan is removed from Rebecca Stone's care effective immediately." The security guard reached for his phone, but Cooper stepped forward. "I wouldn't," he advised quietly. "Accessory to attempted murder carries a hefty sentence." Inside the room, they found Heather Rebecca adjusting Maxwell's IV, her back to the door. Hearing the commotion, she turned, her practiced smile freezing when she saw Eleanor. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, unconsciously stepping between them and the IV stand. Dr. Thomas moved quickly to Maxwell's side, checking vital signs. "Patient is severely compromised," he reported grimly. "Nurse, I need a toxicology panel stat and discontinue this IV immediately." "You can't do this," Heather protested as the police officers entered. "I have medical power of attorney. I make the decisions." "Not anymore," Cooper replied, presenting the court order. "Your authority has been revoked due to evidence of criminal intent." As a nurse carefully removed the IV bag for testing, placing it in an evidence container, Eleanor approached the bed. Maxwell's eyes fluttered open, recognition dawning slowly through the haze of sedatives. "Eleanor?" he murmured weakly. "I'm here," she assured him, squeezing his hand. "You're safe now." The confrontation escalated as Heather realized her scheme was collapsing. "This is ridiculous. I've done nothing but care for him. Tell them, Maxwell." Before he could respond, the door burst open again. Claire Bennett rushed in, breathless, with Lily close behind. They had executed the Institute extraction earlier than planned when Claire discovered Dr. Winters preparing discharge papers, not to release Lily home, but to transfer her to an even more restrictive facility. "Daddy!" Lily cried, breaking free. From Claire to run to the bed, Heather's composure shattered completely. "You little brat!" she snarled, lunging toward Lily. "You've ruined everything!" Cooper intercepted her smoothly, but not before her outburst revealed her true nature to everyone present, especially Maxwell, whose eyes had cleared at the sight of his daughter. "Get her away from my family," he ordered, his voice weak but determined. As the police officers read Heather her rights, a commotion erupted in the hallway. A male nurse, actually Marcus in disguise, had attempted to intervene, but was quickly subdued by Rodriguez, who had been monitoring hospital security feeds. "Package secured," Rodriguez reported, using their mission terminology. "Both targets in custody." Maxwell pulled Lily close, tears streaming down his face. "I'm so sorry I didn't believe you," he whispered. "It's okay, Daddy," Lily replied, her small hand patting his cheek. The bad people couldn't fool all of us forever. As medical staff worked to counteract the poisoning, Eleanor stood guard at the door, finally allowing herself to breathe. Phase 1 was complete. Now came the healing. 3 months later, spring sunshine bathed the Morgan Mansion's gardens as Maxwell and Lily knelt together, planting flowers around a newly installed memorial bench dedicated to Catherine. Though still thinner than before, Maxwell had regained much of his strength under proper medical care. The toxins had caused damage, but with time and treatment, his prognosis was good. "Do you think Mom would like these yellow ones?" Lily asked, carefully, patting soil around a marigold. "She'd love them," Maxwell assured her. "They're as bright as her smile was." The criminal case against Heather, now officially Rebecca Stone, and Marcus Reed had progressed rapidly. The evidence was overwhelming. Financial records, tampered security systems, falsified medical documents, and the poisoned supplements. They faced multiple charges including attempted murder, fraud, identity theft, and criminal conspiracy. The Institute Sunshine had undergone a complete overhaul following Claire Bennett's testimony and the evidence collected during Lily's rescue. Dr. Winters had surrendered her remaining credentials and now awaited trial alongside Rebecca and Marcus. "Uncle Max, the lemonade's ready," called a young voice from the patio. Emma, the red-haired girl from the Institute, waved enthusiastically. Beside her stood Tyler, carefully carrying a tray of glasses, one of Maxwell's first acts upon recovery. had been establishing the Morgan Foundation for Child Protection and Advocacy. Learning that Emma and Tyler were foster children with no family to return to, he had arranged for their proper care and inclusion in his household until permanent homes could be found, though Eleanor suspected the arrangement might become permanent given the bond forming between the children. "We'd better not keep them waiting," Maxwell said, rising slowly and offering Lily his hand. "Mrs. Patterson's cookies won't last long with those two around." Mrs. Patterson had resumed her position as household manager, bringing stability back to the mansion. Rodriguez had expanded his security team with thoroughly vetted professionals, implementing multiple layers of protection around the family. Inside, Eleanor reviewed plans for the Foundation's first major initiative, a training program to help medical professionals identify signs of manipulation and abuse in vulnerable populations. Cooper had joined as head of investigations, bringing his expertise to families facing similar predatory situations. "Everything's ready for the board meeting tomorrow," Eleanor informed Maxwell as he entered. "Dr. Thomas has cleared you for 2 hours of business discussion, not a minute more." Maxwell nodded, accepting the limitation with newfound humility. "Has Claire confirmed for dinner?" Claire Bennett had become a regular visitor, her courage in helping rescue Lily earning her the family's lasting gratitude, and potentially something more, given the chemistry developing between her and Cooper. "O'clock," Eleanor confirmed. "She's bringing her proposal for reforming children's residential treatment regulations." As the adults discussed Foundation business, the 3 children gathered around the kitchen island, whispering and giggling with the easy camaraderie of shared experience. "You really have your daddy back now," Emma observed, watching Maxwell. "Through the doorway. We have each other back," Lily corrected. "And now we have all of you too." Later that evening, as fireflies began to dance across the lawn, the extended Morgan family gathered on the patio. Maxwell raised his glass in a toast. "To seeing clearly," he said, his eyes finding Lily's. "And to those who help us when our vision fails." As glasses clinked and conversation flowed, Lily leaned against her father's side, a sense of peace settling over her for the first time since her mother's death. The mansion felt like home again, not because the danger had passed, but because truth had prevailed, bringing with it the healing power of genuine love and connection. In Catherine's garden, the newly planted flowers turned toward the setting sun, promising brighter tomorrows for the family that had weathered the darkest of storms and emerged stronger for having faced it together.